I recommend students who are preparing for the FE electrical and the P power exam preparation to use a three-phase approach, three-step approach, whatever you want to call it. The first one is a broad coverage, and this is probably going to take most of your time. So if you're preparing for the FE electrical and computer exam, then the 17 sections that you need to complete, top to bottom math all the way to software engineering, properties of electrical materials, probability, stats, ethics, engineering, economics, circuits, linear systems, communication, signal processing, the whole 9 yards. That is going to be the first order of the business. That's your primary objective. That's the main mission in the first go. Okay. And when you're dealing with the P power prep, same thing. We have 9 sections now as per the October 1st, 2025 exam specification. And completing those 9 sections and all the subtopics comprehensively is going to be phase one. Phase two is to hit the weaknesses, right? In my programs, I give my students spreadsheets, with all the topics and the lectures and whatnot, and they rate every single piece of content as easy, medium, or difficult. And I recommend them not to sort of keep on circling back to the topics that they find challenging, because we got to make progress in one direction. But now that you have that dashboard, a personalized qualitative assessment of your strengths and weaknesses locally hosted on your computer, which you had been updating on a weekly basis, then you have a very clear vision of what your strengths and weaknesses are. And during your round two of review, you revisit the difficult areas with focused effort. Okay. And practice number three is primarily driven by full and computer simulated practice exams that I have in my program, and NCA sample exam you can use as well. And that's when we basically zero in on very subtle gaps in our understanding, and our goal is then to close those gaps. Okay, so this is a three-phased approach. When you are in phase number one, you don't worry about whether I'm retaining everything as I'm moving forward. Very common question. Okay, Wasim, I'm halfway through the coursework. I feel like I'm forgetting conic sections, but I feel electrical. Wasim, I'm halfway through the P power preparation. I'm starting to forget the equations related to burden of a CT, right? You don't have to worry about it. You just keep on moving forward while keeping track of your weaknesses. Rate the topics easy, medium, difficult. Once you're done 100% with the coursework, with the progress completion, you then move on to phase two. In phase two, you're going to be doing intentional selective strategic review, where you open up that spreadsheet that is tracking your strengths and weaknesses. And now in section number one of PE power, if burden calculation was bothersome for you, or the ratio error calculation, the knee point of a CT, whatever the topic is, then you go to that particular piece of knowledge, work through the practice problems, lecture resources, whatever you're using, and then hammer that one more time. What ends up happening is that some of these problematic topics, actually, when you revise them, okay, it might be an isolated topic like this, but then by reviewing that topic, you're able to review the tangential associated auxiliary topics, right? I like to give the example of compound exercises. If you're doing the four major compound exercises, you actually don't necessarily have to do a lot of isolation work. For example, if you're doing squats, deadlift, bench press, shoulder press, back row, depending on, so the 4 or 5 major compound exercises, you don't necessarily have to work on your biceps, right? You don't necessarily have to work on your shoulders. You don't necessarily have to sort of do tricep pulls and whatnot. Would be good, but as long as you're doing a few major, addressing these major roadblocks, right, in your preparation, for example, over here, core concepts, 3 phase per unit, if that's what was bothering you, then automatically the surrounding stuff is going to get taken care of. Okay, and then finally, when you're in the practice exam mode, it is further isolated, very streamlined, focused, surgical review of the gaps. If you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing. On a weekly basis, I'm creating content for FE electrical and P power exam preparation. I also discuss topics related to electrical engineering with a focus on power systems engineering. If you'd like to learn more about my FE electrical and P power exam preparation programs, please visit my website, studyforfe.com.